Hello friends, welcome to our channel Knowledge Amplifier. So today in this particular video we are going to explore how to secure our code in most effective and efficient way. Okay. So generally when we start programming, we might think that if we able to write some lines of text depending on our programming language which can solve a particular business need, that itself is fulfilling our requirement. But in real world that is not the correct. What I'm trying to say is coding is nothing but writing some lines of text, especially nowadays when hackers are having very powerful technologies. That time we should be very careful while writing our code. It should be secured code and reliable code also. We need to make sure that our business is not getting impacted due to our code which has vulnerabilities in it. And vulnerabilities may appear in different places. One possible place is in our code itself. You are writing API key, secret key as a hard-coded value in your Python program. That is nothing but a vulnerable code. Then it might possible you are using some external third-party Python dependencies, and when you are doing pip install, that external module is getting installed in your system, and in the backend that module may emit the data by consuming from your system to some external server. So from dependencies also vulnerabilities may come or security concern may arise, right? Then another possibility is container. Often we use some base image to build our Docker container. In that base image itself, sometimes these security issues may be available. And the last but not the least is IAC. Many times we use Terraform script to build our AWS infrastructure. In that Terraform script itself, sometimes we might write some vulnerable code or the code which might raise some security issues. For example, while creating a EC2 security group, you might have configured some improper inbound-outbound rule, which will eventually make all our internal servers public. So those kind of security issues in IAC also might be available. So in various places we can see in our software development lifecycle, we might encounter vulnerabilities. And Snyk is nothing but a tool which helps us in detecting these vulnerabilities. And not only that, Snyk always suggests that you can use this thing instead of that to resolve this issue. So it is nothing but taking the responsibility of scanning our code, the external Python dependencies, the containers, and the infrastructure as code, whatever you are using, that can be Terraform or something else. It scan all those, find out the places where it might raise security issues, and it suggests that what solution we can implement to avoid that, right? And in our this video, we are going to explore how to add Snyk in our CI/CD pipeline. And why I am focusing on CI/CD? The reason is, think like this way, whenever a developer is pushing their code after some development in the dev or any feature branch, that time itself, if we can run the Snyk vulnerability check on the whole code, then and there the issues will be detected, right? So that is one of the best place where Snyk security scan we can implement as soon as some developer push some code in a particular GitHub repository, right? So today we are going to explore how to work with Snyk using GitHub Action. Whenever some code will be pushing in our GitHub repository, the Snyk should able to scan that using GitHub Action, and it should list down all the places where vulnerabilities or security issues may appear, right? So without any further delay, I will quickly jump into Snyk platform. So here I will open a new incognito window, and here I will use Snyk sign up. And here you will be getting the first option, Snyk Login or sign up, and you can log in using GitHub or Google. So I am going to use Google, and here I am going to provide my email ID, and here I need to provide the password. Click on next. Now this particular page will appear if you are signing up in Snyk for the first time. Now where it will do the code scan, either in GitHub or in some CLI or in Bitbucket, which platform. So here for this particular demo, we are going to use this particular GitHub repository, our own GitHub repository. So here I will choose that option. I will click on next, and then here private and public repositories, that is fine, next, and then here authenticate GitHub, and we need to integrate our GitHub account with this Snyk. So here I need to provide the user ID or email ID and password for my GitHub account. I will do that, and I will sign in. And here I will authorize Snyk. And here Snyk will import all the repositories, whatever we are having, right? So that is fine. Let's not focus on this UI part now, because my primary intention is to show you how we can make our code secured using Snyk Scan using GitHub Action. Okay. So here what I will do, I will go to GitHub and I'll be creating a new repository for this demo. Or maybe what I'll do, I'll open this GitHub in the same incognito window for ease of reference. And here now I will create a new repository. So click on new, Snyk GitHub demo YT. This is the name. I can keep this particular repository private and I'll create this repository. Okay, cool. Up to this, I hope it is very simple. And now we need to explore how to implement GitHub action for Snyk Scan whenever a code is pushed in our GitHub repository. That is this one, right? So for that, what we will do is go to GitHub Marketplace and we will try to find out if there is any existing YAML code available for us. Okay. So here I will search GitHub Marketplace, where we always get different inbuilt actions. So here I will search Snyk, and here we are getting that first option. I'll go to that because we are going to work with Python. So I will choose Python. You can choose your favorite language. And here you can see we are getting the GitHub action which we can write for Snyk Code Scan. Okay, what it is doing? It is running on Ubuntu latest. First it is doing checkout and then it is using this particular action to scan our code. So I will just copy this particular code, but here you can see it require one secret, and that is Snyk token. So we need to configure that first in our GitHub secret. So from here we will get that. We will get that from Snyk UI. So here I will go to that and then account setting, and then here you will be getting an option of key click to show. Just click on that and here you will be getting the key value. So all I need to do, I need to go to the setting of this particular GitHub repository and I will click on action and I will add this particular secret. So this is the secret value basically, and our secret variable name should be this one, Snyk token, and I'll add this secret. With this, our Snyk token is ready, and now here I will be creating a new file for scanning. Okay. So here I can give the name as app.py, and I am having some dummy Python code. Here you can see, and if you just have a quick glance, I hope you can understand that here there is no such vulnerable code we have written. Just we are calling an API and inserting some data in DynamoDB. So let's see what Snyk says, and here I will commit these changes. So here our first step is done. Now we can add our Snyk workflow. So add file, create new file, and because this is workflow, it should be within GitHub, then workflows, and within that Snyk scan.yaml. And here I can paste the code by copying from here. Let's see. And I'll commit the changes. So now our GitHub action should be started. And to check that, I will duplicate this session in a new tab. I'll keep my Snyk code open as of now here. And here, let's see. I'll go to actions. And here you can see our Snyk scan has automatically started. And why it started? Because here if you see that this particular GitHub action will be triggered whenever some push event occurred in our this repository. And when we committed this particular Snyk code, that is nothing but a push event. So that's why this particular Snyk scan YAML or workflow code got triggered. So first it is doing that checkout of that repository, and then it is doing that Snyk scan, and here it failed. Okay, let's expand that and let's try to understand why it failed. So here testing GitHub workspace could not detect supported target files GitHub workspace. So basically the command what it is trying to execute is test. So let's just Google a little bit about this Snyk test command. Snyk command test. So the Snyk test command checks projects for open source vulnerabilities and license issues. The test command tries to auto-detect supported manifest files with dependencies and test those. There are specific Snyk test command for Snyk code, container, IAC, code test, container test, IAC test. Okay. So here in this case, basically we are going to test our code, not container or IAC. So we can put code test as a command and we can try that out once. So here I will edit this particular file. Now we need to see that how we can pass the command code test instead of putting only test. So for that, I'll be going to this particular documentation, and here you will be getting an option called properties. Here if you see, if you want to pass some command, you can pass this way. Default is test. So instead of this, we want to put code test, right? So here I can put that. You can copy this one, and here after environment we can put a with block, and then here we need to put the command, and that is code test. Okay, so let's try it out now. Commit the changes, go to actions, and it started. Let's wait for a few seconds. And here now it is performing check for vulnerabilities, and here you can see it is now successful. Test completed. There is no issue found in this code, right? And that's what we discussed earlier also, right? That we have written such code. Let me just duplicate the session and show you. Here we have written such code where actually there is no vulnerabilities or issues available, right? Now what we will do, we will try to artificially create issues, and we will see whether Snyk is detecting those or not. Okay, so for that I have written a code where I am hard coding 2 API keys. Okay, although I am not using that, you can understand, right, that this is just I added for this demo or artificial error creation. So let's just try it out and see whether Snyk detects this kind of vulnerable code or not. We should never hard code API key value in our code. Either it should come from AWS Secret Manager, or it should come from environmental variable at least, right, which is encrypted using KMS or something. But here we are just simply defining API keys. So this is actually a vulnerable code, and ideally Snyk should detect this. So I'll commit the changes, and here now we will check on the action. The action got triggered. So here you can see test is completed, but earlier it was showing that no issue found. But here now in the summary you can see 2 issues found, right? And here it is highlighting that lines also, line number 15 and line number 16, use of hard-coded credential. See how beautifully Snyk is scanning the code. So here if you see, in line number 15 and 16 only, you have hard-coded API keys, and Snyk has detected those, and it is clearly showing that 2 issues found. There are modifications needed for this code to avoid vulnerabilities, right? Now what we want to do, we want to implement a pipeline such that whenever some code will be pushed in the GitHub repository, Snyk will scan the code. It will try to find out if there is any vulnerabilities, and if vulnerabilities are available, it should send a Slack alert, or you can basically modify that and send some mail alert or something like that. I am going to show you in Slack how you can send this alert. Okay, now to send alert, what we have to do, we need to first capture these kind of records. Instead of CLI, we should capture that in some file. So let's check that how to capture that. So for that, again I will go to the documentation, and here if you scroll below, here you will be getting an option with args, and here you can basically load the Snyk scan result in this serif file, right? So we will just put this particular argument in our GitHub action code. So for that I will duplicate this particular session, and here I will go to GitHub Workflows and then Snyk scan.yaml, and I will try to edit that. I just added one extra argument, serif files, and that file name should be snyk.serif. There all our Snyk scan related logs will be stored. Now you might be interested in checking what is the content of this particular file, right? So for that, here I can add another step in our GitHub action, name print the Snyk serif file. Okay, and here what we will do, we will just simply execute a cat command. Okay, just to see the content within this particular file, whatever Snyk is creating after code scan. But here it appearing that there is some indentation issues, and with these issues is gone. Now our GitHub action looks correct. All I will do, I will commit these changes, and now in this particular file, the Snyk scan results should be stored. This particular file should show that these are the places where it detected the vulnerabilities, etc. So again, let's go back to our GitHub Actions section, and here you can see our GitHub action got triggered. I'll go inside that. Let's wait for a few seconds. And here you can see our code basically failed. Run Snyk to check vulnerabilities. Okay, that is fine. It has detected 2 issues. It has printed in logs, but we want to see in that file also. But here you can see the file code is not executed at all. And why it is not? The reason is whenever Snyk detects some code issue, immediately it fails that particular GitHub workflow. So we need to stop this one. What we need to do? We need to make sure that if Snyk finds some vulnerabilities in this layer, it should not fail the code, it should go to the next step. Then only we'll be able to see the content within it. So for that, here if you check the GitHub action documentation, here we are getting an option called continue on error true. Okay, that is if Snyk able to find some security issues, it should not fail the job, it should continue on error. So we need to add that in this Snyk action. So that I will add. So here I will edit this particular file again, and here I will put continue on error true. I'll commit the changes. So this time what should happen? Snyk will find out some vulnerabilities or security issues, but it will not fail the process. It will execute the next step and print the content whatever is available in snyk.serif file. Okay. So here I will go back to actions, and here our actions is started. Let's wait for a few seconds that it get completed. So here now it is doing Snyk code scan, and here if you see, just scroll little up. Here see, it found the issues in the code, but earlier the step was failing here itself, but now it has not failed due to continue on error true property, and it went to the next block where it is printing the Snyk serif file, and here this is the content in it. This is kind of a JSON data. Let's explore this particular JSON data using JSON formatter. So all I will do, I'll copy this complete output of that cat command, and I will use some online JSON formatter tool to inspect in it. Okay. So here, let's see, I will choose this particular website. I'll paste the JSON and I will click on proceed. So here it has found some issue, but let's ignore that. So here this is the structure of our JSON file. Let me just minimize this, or if I can minimize the whole rules part if it is not needed. Here you can see there is a key called result. Okay, and that is nothing but an array. So let's see the content within the array. So I just minimize this too. So here if you observe, in our code there are 2 issues. So within result we are having 2 elements. If you expand one element, here it has given the message do not hardcode credential in code, and we have found out hard-coded credentials used in here, and the line number also somewhere it will be showing, that is line number 15. And if you check the second element, it should show line number 16. So if I scroll below, yeah, here see line number 16. So what we are getting from this primary inspection of this JSON structure is, in our Snyk serif file, in the results part, our scan report or scan summary will be stored. Okay. Now we want to send a Slack alert that Snyk has detected these issues, and we just want to mention the count of issues are this much. That is, you can mention that there are 2 issues found, or there are 3 issues found, right? So that we can easily do if we able to find out the length of this results array which are available within runs key, right? So that we need to implement now. That is, we need certain code which will basically read this particular JSON file, and then it will try to find out what is the length of this results array. So that will do. And for that, I will quickly take help of ChatGPT. I'll log in. And here what I will do, I'll paste that JSON and I'll ask ChatGPT to write a shell script to extract the length of the results key. Okay. So here we are having our JSON. I'll copy that. Please write GitHub action code to find out the length of this results array which is available within run key. So here if you see our JSON, the parent key is run, I guess. Let me just confirm run key. Within run key. Shell script code I have mentioned because I don't want that ChatGPT will give me some Python code or something for this simple work. And here if you see, it has basically given us the code, and this is the code length cat your file.json jq this. So all I'll do, I'll copy this particular code and I will update my Snyk code here. So here name total security issues, and then here I'll paste this code. It should be within run block. And here your file.json, instead of that we need to provide our file name, that is this one. And now we can configure this as environmental variable within the Ubuntu latest machine where our GitHub action is running. And how to do that already I discussed in my GitHub action code, and that is nothing but this kind of command we can use. Let me just use that one also. So here we can use echo, and because multi-line run we are doing, I'll just give a pipe symbol, and this is the code. So what it is doing, first it is trying to find out the length of the results key or results array within our Snyk array file, and that particular thing it is defining as results length environmental variable in GitHub action. Okay, so here what I can do, I can commit these changes and let's see whether it throws any error or not. So here I'll go back to actions. Here our actions started. So here this code has executed successfully, no error it has thrown. And now as part of the last step, we need to make sure we can send this particular information to Slack. So for that already I have explained how to integrate Slack with GitHub action using webhook. So that same concept I am going to use. I have already written this particular code. So here let me take this particular part and I'll explain what I have done here. So here this is the Slack notifier, and what I have done here, since notification on Slack using webhook, I am using one reusable action, and if always, whether the code is failed or successful, we should always send an alert in Slack whatever Snyk has scanned, that summary report. And in the payload we are putting the Snyk scan result for this repo. Repo name you can provide, maybe this particular name I can provide here for repo. This is job status. Okay, whether the job is successful or failed, that one we can send. And number of vulnerabilities. So we have already configured the total number of vulnerabilities available in results length environmental variable. So that one we are extracting here. And then if a person wants from that Slack alert itself, they can come to this particular GitHub workflow run and inspect for further analysis. So for that here we are providing the URL whatever our this particular workflow run will be having, and that is configured using variable github.repository. It will take the repository name action/run/github.runid. So in each run for a particular workflow, a unique run ID will be assigned, and if you configure the URL like that, if you hit that URL, it will directly take you to that workflow run for which particularly the alert arised. Okay, so I hope you understood this part. And then environmental variable, we need to configure Slack webhook URL where it will send the message. So for that I will quickly create our Slack webhook and Slack app. So here I will go to slack.com, and here I will sign in, and here we are having some workspace. Maybe for example I am going to choose this particular workspace, and here we are already having some channels. Now I will create the Slack app. So for that I'll go to api.slack.com/apps and I will click on create app, and I will choose the option from scratch, app name demo slack alert Snyk. Okay, and the workspace I need to choose, which is basically demo YT, this one, and I'll create this app. And here I need to choose incoming webhook, that is basically going to help us to publish message in Slack from some external system, and I will make this on, and here add webhook to workspace, and I just need to click on allow. First I need to choose the channel, maybe I want to choose general, and I'll click on allow. So this is done, and here we are getting our webhook URL. So that we need to configure in GitHub Action Slack webhook URL in this particular secret, right? So that will do. So I'll go to actions. Currently no action is running. I'll go to secrets, actions, new repository secret, and Slack webhook URL I'll be adding. Add secret. Okay, secret is added, and here our code is also ready. I'll just commit the changes. And let's go to the action. So here our GitHub action is started. We should get some message in this general channel, which will give us all the information that what is the total number of vulnerabilities found in the code, and the GitHub workflow URL, which we can directly click and go to that particular GitHub run. All those information should be posted in Slack. So here the job is successful, and let's go to Slack, and here you can see how beautifully the message or alert came. The Snyk scan result for the repo is success, number of vulnerabilities 2, and this is the detail. And here you can see this is a URL. If you click on that particular URL, it will directly take you to that particular workflow run, okay, where it found the vulnerabilities. And now here you can just Snyk code check this particular run. You can just expand and you can find out what are the issues occurred, right? So this is one of the way how you can send an alert. But the problem in this case is we need to modify this particular message little bit. It should not throw success if vulnerability is found. So just we need to add one extra step. If there is vulnerabilities, then it should fail that process and throw this as failure, or else it should throw success only if number of vulnerabilities is 0. So that we can easily do using a simple if-else check. So I have already written the code. I'll just update you and explain you what I have done here. So I'll click on edit, and here before our Slack, I'll just add that particular piece of code. So here what we are doing, pass or fail this particular GitHub workflow run. And here we are checking if result length, which is basically storing the total number of vulnerabilities found in our code. If that is not equal to 0, then we are printing the job failed and we are executing exit 1. Whenever exit code is not 0, that means the job failed, the process will fail. That is the default behavior of how shell script works, right? So we are exiting 1, else echo pass. That is, if result length is 0, that means there is no vulnerabilities found in this particular code. And how we are finding that? In Snyk serif file, we are calculating the length of the array results, and it will be 0 if there is no vulnerabilities. So that way our result length, this environmental variable, will be having 0 value, and that time while checking this if else condition, it will go to that else block and it will simply pass. Okay, right? That is how it is working. So this is the extra piece of line what we need to add, and this code we just added to inspect, so I can remove this cat command that is no longer needed, and this pretty much our code. And now in one more point I want to draw your attention, that suppose there are some issues found or vulnerabilities available in our code. So in this particular step, it will throw exit 1 and it will fail. So ideally, no next step should be executed, right? That's how GitHub action works. But if you observe here, I have written if always. Okay, that means whether the previous steps get succeeded or failed, whatever happens, this particular code block should always be getting executed. Okay, if there is no error, it will throw that there is no issue. But if there is error, it should throw that there is issue. So for both cases, I want to send Slack alert, right? So that's why here I have configured if always. I hope you understood this, and now I will commit the changes. So your changes are committed. Now I'll go to action block here, and I'll see what our code returns. So here you can see pass or fail the job, because our result length is not having the value 0. So it is printing job failed, and actually our GitHub action is failed. But still our Slack message alert step has executed due to if always block. Now if you go to action section, here you will clearly see that the job is actually failed. And let's see our Slack message this time. Here see, the Snyk scan result for the repo is failure. Number of vulnerabilities 2 and detail is this one. If you click on that particular link, it will take you to that particular workflow run where the job failed. So this way, here from this alert itself, we are getting complete information that whether there is some issues or not. Okay, right? Now suppose sometime we might get some kind of issues which we can ignore. For example, here if you check this particular logs, let me just expand this Snyk check step. Here see, these issues are having low priority. So Snyk basically classify the vulnerabilities based on high, medium or low. High vulnerabilities should be taken care of very seriously, but sometimes we can ignore the low vulnerabilities, right? So that also you can implement. We are having a feature in Snyk using which we can control what all vulnerabilities it should put in summary. Whether only high issues, low issues or medium issues, that it will scan, that we can configure. So in this case, it is a low level vulnerability. So if we want to ignore that, that also available in this particular documentation. And that is basically here, if you just check severity threshold. So we can configure the threshold that if the issues or vulnerabilities are of high category, then only it should basically scan and capture those, or else we can ignore that. Like for our case, this is a low vulnerability. So if we want to ignore, we can configure this extra argument in our code. So let me show you that. So currently in our code, actually API key is hard coded, but that is low level vulnerability. Suppose we want to ignore that, that is not a problem for our process. So that time all we need to do is in this argument, we need to provide this extra part, and that is severity threshold high. Either you can configure like this way, or in the same place you can configure like this way. Okay. So this will make sure that Snyk will only capture those vulnerabilities which are having high value, right? So let's see. We have not changed our code. Earlier Snyk was getting the vulnerability issues there. Now let's see what Snyk throws. Whether it scan and find any vulnerability or not, that we will inspect. So here I'll go to security. And it is now doing security scan. And here you see that although earlier Snyk was detecting issues or vulnerability, but now it is throwing test complete, awesome, no issue were found, right? Why it is coming? Because we have configured severity threshold high. Only high level issues we want to resolve. If that is the case, we can control like this way. And the variable value can be changed to high, medium or low. Obviously you can check the documentation to explore more, but I just thought to cover this important property that we can configure, and that is this one. And now let's check the Slack message. Here you can see for the same code, earlier it was getting vulnerabilities 2, but it is now throwing number of vulnerabilities 0, and our job has not failed. You can click on that particular link, and here you can see it is passed now. Although for the same code earlier it was failing, right? So this is how Snyk can be helpful in increasing the code security for our project. I just tried to cover some fundamentals around it. I'll be providing the documentation link in the description box, which you can explore to get more idea out of it. And I will always suggest that in your project, you implement this, because personally in our projects, we found lot of benefits using this. Before security team reach out to us that these are the issues potentially may cause harm in the business, we ourselves able to detect those issues using this powerful tool called Snyk. So I just thought to share this new learning, whatever I have encountered in my recent project with you all. If you find this video helpful, then please like, share and comment. Subscribe our channel if you have not subscribed till now. And don't forget to press the bell icon to get the notification of our latest videos. Thank you for watching.